Good evening and welcome to this launch event for three collections being published by Bloodaxe this month in March. I'm Neil Ashley, editor of Bloodaxe Books, and we will be hearing from Lily Blacksell, Rita Ann Higgins, and John McCullough. Lily Blacksell's book, I'll say something about her first, and then we'll hear from her. One of the particular themes of her book is the comedy and calamity of human relationships, and I think that's a theme that you'll find goes through a number of the work of the poets we'll be hearing from this evening. At the end of their readings, we'll then be coming together for a discussion. Lily's book is her first book-length collection, and she's an events organizer and promoter. She lives in London. And her book is called Life Immediately. And this is the book, and it has this great photograph by Chris Chapman on the cover. So I'll hand over to her to introduce her poems. Lily.
Hey, that's no way to say goodbye. Rabbit the pony got a hay husk in his eye once, and it drove him half crazy, near blind. But he blinked until it passed in a tear or his bloodstream. Good boy, Rabbit. There's a good boy. My limbs are a mess, but my work is sterling. There's method in my harvest, gladness and moon. This is how strong I am, stupid world. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. 100 baleful. 100% I will do this today, or I will not do this at all. Before I know it, because of the twine, my knuckles have split and roam in my skin with the seeds that have burrowed right under there too and hurt like a bastard or several. A crossbred terrier is desperate to play. Not now, Paddy. Paddy, not now. There's so much still to do whilst the sun still shines, and I'm eagle-eyed cherrying tomorrow. My body is husky, not like a voice, not like a dog, and I'm bleeding right out into nothing. When he trundles through the trees on his crap old tractor, the farmer shouts surprise at all I've done. His swear words grateful, proud, husky, not like a dog or like me, and he's crying right out into nothing. But he blinks until it passes. Not now, Paddy. Good boy, Rabbit, and offers me slings for my fingers. So that's the first poem in my collection, with apologies to Leonard Cohen. And yeah, thank you to Neil for the introduction and indeed for believing in this book. It is such a pleasure and a joy to be working with him and to be published by Bloodaxe, who I've been pretty obsessed with ever since my mum bought me a book of Adrian Mitchell's poetry when I was a teenager. And yeah, the whole process thus far has just been an utter delight. So thank you to him and the team and to all of you for being here this evening. What's also been a delight is spending some time with the books of John and Rita Ann. One of the things I love about poetry and reading lots of poems kind of in conjunction with one another is the way that you can hear all these chimes between them, or you start to see all of these links between them. And John's got a great poem which talks about the way that a woodpecker's tongue wraps around its brain to sort of protect it during its drilling. And that put me in mind of one of my own poems, which also mentions a woodpecker. So that is the one I will read next. It's called Will I Ever? Last year, I had a mind like a bird box, nailed just above where my spinal cord stops, and the thoughts came and went, never quite done with nesting. At my feet hopped a woodpecker, letting me know any minute now it would scale me, the trunk of me. Forks for feet latching, then tearing up, all to hammer my head with a pneumatic beak. No wonder you can't hear the P with this racket. I don't want to cause any more pain, I said, shouted, with a gesture intended to be graceful and gentle. But my Chanel nail varnish leaves streaks like stigmata, thinly sliced tomato. Paper cut galore. So I was nevertheless doing damage of some sort, even though I didn't mean to, even though it wasn't sore. Unwitting upset, African grey parrot on the loose, which, as a species, like a woodpecker, even more like a pot of pseudocreme, actually, has a good fleck of startling, definite red. Bad guys don't have the facts, but they sure know the feelings, and that is the edge that they have on the left. And me, I have neither. Just migraine, slight fever. From the edge of my eye, I see a small feathered head. You know, it's really rained when the trees have changed colour, when it's soaked their bark torsos through and through. I know a story about Sylvia Plath in a van all the sorry way back to Dublin, and another one finds her in London's Rugby Street with sausages and a communal sink in the hall. Everyone must have stank in those days, did they? Surely, when you think about it, everyone stank. And from Sylvia Plath to Jane Austen, the last poem I'll read in this section is one that takes its title from a sort of reimagining of a quote from the book Emma, when Mr. Knightley is kind of chastising Emma and saying it was badly done indeed, or something along those lines. Anyway, this poem is called Well Done, Emma. There's a row which ends with one participant saying, "How can you? How can you?" Whilst the other thinks it should be clear just how she can. She can. Scuffing her foot like a puck on the implausibly smooth paving, she thinks, "Caw, in the rain? These shoes? I'd slip, land badly, surrounding buildings echoing the smack of my head." It's 10 to 12 at night, that is, and they're outside the blinking library. She's holding a banana, which cost a lot, and aiming it at him like a stick-up. But this isn't deliberate, but he's acting wounded, doubling over and down. "I'm on your team," he gasps. "In your corner. It's your self-esteem, which has always been low." That's as may be, but she knows what she wants, which, for now, is a source of carbohydrates and fibre to fuel the rest of the 19th century novel's essay she will go inside and get on with, satisfactorily, but with tears in her eyes. "Please," she says, squeezing, "respect my decision," whilst acknowledging, privately, not a cat in hell's chance. He's in pain, and she's sorry to see it. She's also in pain for what it's worth. Although for her this is it, she can tell it's not got through, and he'll text first thing tomorrow when no doubt she'll still be here, at which point, her blood truly coursing with potassium, she will scroll for a while, then press print. Thank you.
Thank you, Lily. And now we're going to go from Lily in London to Rita Ann Higgins in Galway, Ireland. And she'll be reading from the third retrospective, which Bloodaxe has published of her work. It includes work, numerous collections going back to, God, I've forgotten the name of the first collection.
Goddess on the Merview Bus.
Goddess on the Merview Bus, exactly.
I love a senior moment. Indeed.
Yeah, senior moment. So I'll probably just hand straight over to Rita Ann.
Okay.
You go for it.
Okay. Goddess on the Merview Bus for Fergal McGrath. Aphrodite of the homely bungalow, cross curtains, off-white Anglia at the side. Your father, who was no Zeus, turns old scrap into rolled gold nightly from memory, looks down on you from his scrap mountain, hurling forks of caution about the tin can man who fumbles in the aisle of the Merview bus, longing for the chance of a throwaway smile, a discarded bus ticket. Oh, goddess on the Merview bus, no scrap dealer fashioned you from memory or want. You were spun from gold and dust, a dash of dream. Enslaver of mortals, you choose me. Once when you yawned, I saw myself sitting cross-legged on a lonely molar, waiting for the crunch. And I meant to say that we moved to Merview when I was 11, and it's a kind of a working class estate. It's not that far from here, but it was a very big adventure, and the poem itself was really about not, against deity, not to be setting anybody up, because generally speaking, we all yawn, and we do worse than that as well. But this next one is called Philomena's Revenge. As a teenager, she was like any other boys, the crack smoking down the backs. Later there was talk she broke things, her furniture and glass, her mother's heart. Mad at the world, the old women nod round each other's faces. But it was more than that, and for less she was punished. That weekend she didn't leave a cup alone. Every chair hit the wall, Philomena's revenge. Soon after, she was shifted and given the shocks. Round each other's faces, the old women nod. Treatment, they've given her the treatment. These days she gets on with the furniture, wears someone else's walk, sees visions in glass. She's good too for getting the messages, small things, bread and milk, sometimes the paper. And closing the gate after her father drives out. She waits for his signal. He always shouts twice. Get the gate, Philo. Get the gate, girl. And this one is called Hire Purchase. And it's spelt Higher. But it has a different meaning. We saw them take her furniture out. The new stuff her kids boasted about 6 months before. The Chesterfield suite, the pine table and chairs, the posh lamp, the phone table, though they had no phone. When it was going in, we watched with envy. She told her kids out loud, "You're as good as anyone else on this street." When it was coming out, no one said anything. Only one young scut who knew no better shouted, "Where will you put the phone now when it comes?" And to finish this this segment, I'm going to read a poem called An Awful Racket. In the winter, we don't light a fire every day, 3 days a week max. Always on a Saturday night, though. Me and the kids sit round the fire and sing songs. The twins clap. They play Baker's Man. We have great crack, except for Justin. I nearly had him in a taxi. That's why we call him Justin. He's 14 now. He's always angry. What's good is looking into the fire like spaz. What's fucking wrong with you, he says. Then all hell breaks loose. I don't allow foul language. I didn't bring them up like that. Then the twins start bawling and I can't shut them up. The eldest starts first. He was born 10 seconds before Paul. I say to Peter, "If you don't shut that fucking cake hole, I'll throttle you." Then Paul starts. He has lungs like a broken exhaust. Later, last year, when things were a bit slack, we burnt their father's wardrobe. We split up 2 years ago. We parted on amiable grounds, though. I couldn't aim and he couldn't miss. The kids thought it was a howl, me taking the hatchet to the wardrobe on Christmas Day. There was nothing much in it anyway, only a couple of his shirts I'd forgotten to put in the mincer, old papers that where the cat had kittens, and a Banjax tennis racket. That racket caused more trouble. One day, no one wanted it. The next day, they all wanted it. I ended up throwing it on the fire. It crackled like lard. Thank you, and I'll read later on.
Thank you, Rita Ann. And Rita Ann was actually reading the title poems from her first 4 collections.
Very sharp.
Yes, so that takes you into the first part of her retrospective. We're now going to hear from John McCullough and his amazing cover by the artist Villain is a reimagining of a comic book cover with the superheroes are all gay superheroes and features in the middle John McCullough himself in an Adidas tracksuit, which features in one of the poems. This is his fifth collection. His first collection was published by Salt, and was shortlisted and won the Polaris Prize. He then published three collections with Penned in the Margins, which were very well received, but Penned in the Margins stopped publishing then. And we were very lucky at Bloodaxe that he's come to us with his fifth collection. He's tonight at his home in Hove. So, John.
Thank you. Choir. Technically, the human walk is an interrupted fall. We right ourselves each time, promptly stumble again. Someone whispers they're in love between two leafless elms like devastated figures. The rain is an excited animal, licking everything, watched by a woman in a beach hut, sucking loneliness like a mint. I return from the dead each morning till one day I won't. Stroke unspeakable cargo, then feel like a celebrity when a stranger holds a door. Whatever happens goes on behind words. The bottom of the wave that takes the plover's carcass retreats through shingle, and once more the battered stones begin to sing. Giraffe. You're working class, my lad, don't you forget it, said Mum. She was talking to a giraffe, a lanky boy prone to ideas above his station, soft ways of slipping skyward. I love being a giraffe, a vegetarian in fairyland, the staircase of my neck leading nowhere sharp. I loved not being a lion, even though that meant being hunted, carnivores slashing at me till I galloped away. I loved withdrawing to invisible acacias, cathedrals of leaves, where my elastic tongue licked what it liked. Because I loved discovering other giraffes, entwining bodies and probing necks, or simply standing together as a crowd, a forest of extravagant breathing. Bad habits. I saw a magpie snatch a cigarette from dirt, wave it like a sparkler. Stained black and white tracksuit, fag in its beak. I raised my cap. It could have been my first boyfriend, raspy, fond of impossible things. He lied about his name and age and being single. How typical if he's now a bird, didn't really die. He landed on me with one cocky bound, and my body snapped up everything he fed it. My mind, less convinced, hopped behind as I learned repulsive habits. Smoke rings, sweet talk, how to ransack the invisible. I saw a magpie swing a cigarette like a sparkler, writing its secret name, or at least that's what I wanted you to see. A central strand of poems in this book sees Brighton's West Pier travel around the globe and pop up in various locations. And this is the first poem in that sequence where it visits me in Watford, where I grew up. Dawn of the West Pier. I jolt awake to a scraping sound, iron dragged over concrete. Outside, the problem's clear. The ruined pier followed me home. Its space black skeleton wrenched out feet from the seabed. Only a few stiff legs walk properly. The back half a lugged carcass. Sparks havoc across paving as it zombies into Watford, 70 miles from its shore, downing lampposts, dropping ribs and a femur by my terrace house. I try and fail to speak. I who can't tell anyone what I am, who hold my breath when I scuttle past pit bulls, sneers. Close up, spiders dangle from girders like earrings. The structure slumps over me, and I stand enclosed as a voice surges like salt wind. Now haul up your foundations, stride away. And the last poem I'm going to read in this first set is Sunfish. Who wants to live for eons anyway? Watch everyone you love dissolve while you keep shining, pissing out the latest drops of the ocean that's passed through your body. I'd rather be a sunfish than the sun, rather hop over stepping stones in my cowboy hat than endure like the serious mountains. I can't answer the sky's questions or the seas. I light candles because I love starting fires that are small and temporary, like beetles, like flowers, like most of us, common as days. Thank you.
Thank you, John. That was great. We're now going to go back to Lily to read her second set of poems.
Thank you, Neil. Not a set of poems this time, in fact, just one, but it's long. So buckle up, and this is Our Landlady of the Lord Louis. On a night as nice and still as this, what could possibly have set the pub sign swinging? Lord Louis looking queasy as well as weather-worn. Of course, it is the landing of Our Lady, wrapped in a Persian rug and chucked of her own volition, accord, and momentum down her own set of stairs. Unravelling at the foot, she sings Tumbling Dice, to no one in particular, because the pub has been shut for years. Her husband, certainly no lord of ours, died in a crash in his mistress's Mazda and left last orders but no will. A sleeping bag and syringes lie in the shelter of the porch, but Our Lady would have to go outside to see those, and she does not go outside. She has everything she needs. She has a friend, constant, flickering as the North Star, called Tom York, to whom she likes to sing, 2 quid in the jukebox. I bet you think that's pretty clever, don't you, boy? And if he does, he doesn't answer, as she puts 2 coins in the jukebox herself. And for a while, I had to wonder where she got her money from. But of course, she owns the jukebox. She has everything she needs. Tonight, Our Lady, proof of this, is full and sloshing with vodka orange. She has a port wine stain on her cheek from the barroom carpet. She has a problem with her elbows, but it doesn't stop there. Her hair, so wavy lately, shines a pork-scratching sheen. Our Lady must have heard every song on that jukebox 1,000,000 times or more. Her favourites, mostly, ones by Blondie, One Way or Another, Heart of Glass, Pint or Half. On a late, late night, as nice and still as this, what makes her crank the volume so quickly and clockwise? The decibels have her hear the bells on Rapture ring entirely anew. A switch must have tripped or come unstuck, a kind of enough is enough, I've had it, a kind of tonight is the night. Whatever. Our Lady's leaving before the rap has begun. She is tearing down the shutters and running like the clappers, with very little on, let alone shoes, so almost a syringe in her foot, away from the pub and down the lane, past dry stone wall and bus stop. She is shooting through the church door, which is never, ever locked, and speeding down the aisle to the organ. She has not so much as thought of playing it before, doesn't know where to start, but does, because nothing can get in her way tonight. It is all of a sudden vital, you might say. No use asking what she's playing. Don't you dare make a guess or request of our Duchess, not jukebox. Tom stands in the doorway, faithful but anxious. She does it to herself, she does, he thinks, watching sadly, and that's why it hurts me so much. Yes, she is making a god-awful racket, but to her mind it sounds like Wonderland, like the rapture that got her here in the first place. As far as she's concerned, she remembers all the right notes like the wrong done to her, and she is pulling out all of the "Stop!" cries the vicar, who is there now, who is not a priest, because Our Lady ran to the closest local church, one of England, not Catholic. But if you mentioned denominations, she'd say, "What nominations?" with either a wink or a squint. "Madam," the vicar continues, so breathless, "what are you doing? My goodness, the din you made woke my wife and I up." Our Lady scoffs, having not made dinner for quite some time. What good is an empty, unplugged deep freeze to one who so loves fish fingers? "We thought you must be a thief in the night, an early morning burglar. I see you are a woman, madam, and you are almost naked." The vicar's wife shuffles forward now, a white surplice outstretched. "Please, my dear," she says, "here, here, there," thinks Our Lady, "there." She wriggles into it slowly, so as to catch the second-hand skin cells from the robe's last person. Our Lady was once quite social. When surplice is on, she sings Pretty Woman, though the vicar begs her not to. "What's your name, and where do you come from?" asks the wife, a fan of Scylla and wholly ignorant in terms of Our Lady, who says nothing in reply, does not deign to, and who could blame her? She knows her red lion is en route to fetch her, or else her horse of air. In the interim, she shimmies to the pulpit, ascends, and presses her pelvis to the lip of the wood, could almost be behind her bar again, takes comfort in that, takes a breath. "I screwed my courage to the sticky place by the barrels out back, and I left it there. Took to my bed, let dust dry my whistle, I lay my head on a pillow of thistles, and no one came looking for me. It took poor Tom's boredom to curtail my stupor. Playing 10 songs, starting with Super Trooper, the jukebox saved me, for I was forsook. Songs said shake a leg, and Lord, I shook. Now I ask quietly that you don't lie to me. I have heard more in this life than you think, so that everything I hear now is a sound I know already. I'm telling you, baby, I like it like this. Keep your company. I have everything I need." Neither lion nor steed has materialized yet, and the vicar has typed 2 9s on his phone, but nevertheless Our Lady floats down from the pulpit, out of the church, so lightly is she treading. She still feels pedals beneath her feet, pulsing in her calves. Tom follows suit, having given the finger to the vicar and his wife, who don't see him, who watch Our Lady go, noticing which forgotten, boarded up building she is working her way back to, with a burning love inside. "Good heavens, my goodness," the vicar mutters, shaking his head in a most rare moment of disbelief. "Well, I never. That was her." And he can hardly speak Our Lady's name, but his wife understands eventually. And though it is a beautiful morning, an early one at that, so nice and still and bleary, the vicar finds himself gasping, as in very much needing a drink. Thank you.
Thank you, Lily. Wow. Well, now we go back to Rita Ann Higgins for more recent poems from her Jiving with Wasps.
How do you know they're going to be more recent? Anyway, I have to look down. I realize that I don't know any of my poems by heart, and the other speakers, they can just speak out, but I have to look down. But I can, but I don't look down when I'm typing, if that makes sense. It doesn't to me. Anyway, Ambrose had a big heart. Stop laughing, Rita. Ambrose had a big heart. Ad majorem Dei gloriam. Martin de Porres got the Connell family everything. He nodded his lovely head in thank yous when a penny hit the spot. When the grocery van pulled into Burns' yard, good neighbours were ready. Voices ran into each other, up the galvanised roof, down the ears of barking dogs. It was a great place for news. Lulu Connell gave us Ambrose talk, and we lapped it like fried bread dipped in egg. Ambrose, now mind you, is going to work amongst the poor in South Africa, and it's all down to Blessed Martin. The Holy Ghost Fathers had some connection, but it was all nebula fabulorum. Lulu always bought sweet cake from the van, light sponge smothered in coconut, lemon Swiss roll, Madeira, Simnel cake, ice log, Battenberg. She said the cake went straight to the soul and the tea went straight on the hips. They say Ambrose had a smashing global outlook and vision when no one had vision. When he could hardly walk, he was collecting for the black babies. So it came as no great shock to us when one Pancake Tuesday word rose up the queue that Ambrose got a black baby of his own and he married her. She was 12 3/4. Lulu never told us this. It was brought to the village on the lips of a Jesuit who had yellow fever and no belongings. They flew him back in a plane full of airmail letters, on a wing and a prayer. Second last poem, Grandchildren. It's not just feasible at the moment, one daughter tells me, what with Seamus still robbing banks and ramming Garda vans when he gets emotional on a fish-free Friday in February. Maybe the other daughter could deliver. She thinks not at the moment anyway, while Thomas still has a few tattoos to get to cover any remaining signs that might link him with the rest of us. Just now, a B-52 bomber flies over on its way from Shannon to make a gulf in some nation's genealogy. The shadow it places on all our notions is crystal clear, and for a split of a second helping, it juxtaposes the pecking order. Now bank robbers and tattooers have as much or as little standing as popes and princes, and grandchildren become another lonely utterance, impossible to pronounce. And I'll finish with, oh, did I really fell through the cracks? I'll finish with this one, even though I can't remember if I read 3 or 4. He fell through the cracks, and I was working with this group, and the poem is about how we still facilitate children in adult psychiatric wards. And it's not my story. I worked with this group, and that's where I learned about it. It's quite shocking, really. He fell through the cracks. The boy's name was Abel. At times he was sunny, oftener he was sad. He was nonverbal himself. The voices in his head had, like a Greek chorus, never took a tea break. He couldn't tell you what they said. He went around the house with his hands covering his ears, trying to block out the hubbub. His mother cried the day the van came. They put him in an adult psych ward. He shared the ward with 4 men who had their own demons. They never got a weekend pass, much less a visitor with some smokes. Abel deteriorated. His mother told doctors, a flock of them around his bed, the white swans of cool. What's wrong, love? She'd say. He couldn't tell her what toy he wanted, his remote-controlled dinosaur, his ninja set. She guessed on and on for a solid week. Every toy he owned was named, some twice over. He slid into the quieter rooms in his head. He didn't cover his ears anymore. When his file was analysed, the professionals said, Abel fell through the cracks. He went in a van, a jalopy of a thing. He came home in a box, a pencil case of a thing. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rita Ann. And we'll now have the final set from John McCullough.
I was born in an Adidas tracksuit. The midwife gasped as she tugged me, and the markings emerged. 3 parallel white bars along my shoulders, arms, legs. The rest midnight blue. The woven kind, perfect for hurtling through alleys, dodging showers of stones. It disrupted interviews. I tried to slap it off, but the zip wouldn't budge. I entombed my tracksuit under smarter clothes, creased trousers, blazers, my back molten as I layered up for posh restaurants, church. I bolted to the coast. I hid in bars and met avid hands. They waterfalled down my thighs. I realised my stripes were showing, but here it was fine to be stain resistant, to don sweatpants you could spy a cock through. If you look closely, you can see I'm still wearing it now. This uniform with an elastic waistband. My true synthetic skin. Push the button. Sometimes 1,000 robots twirl in synchrony, then a single dancer falls. Meanwhile, you lie in gooey fragments on the bathroom tiles like a smashed soap dispenser, craving love's dustpan. Where's the sorbet parlour that offers a scoop of clarity, smooth and cool and true? Most of us are befuddled, no clue why we're briefly here. Scraps of paper heading for the great recycling. Therefore, fuck it. Do whatever you must. 2 men can cling in bed for just one night, then rise sticky and cheerful as post-its. Stop waiting for the magic number to manifest in a tree trunk, for a revelation in the biscuit aisle beside the hobnobs and a trolley's wonky wheels. You must steer your days. Reach. Take the weeping wall, some tissues, a tub of coconut ice cream. Stare at the seafront puddle where a row of temporary hotels stretches down, regardless, towards the centre of the earth. Please. All the same, I want a crowd to like me. I'll do anything. Grow a second head, defame whoever's nemesis, put on cabaret in which I pull out my kidneys. It's pathetic. A stranger's face twists at the sight of me, and I run after them with a questionnaire, shouting, what if I had completely different eyes? The stars above have no friends, flatter nothing, and they're doing okay. The rain falls unembarrassed, not worrying whether it's beautiful, not hoping to become alive. I could learn a lot from rain, though I probably won't. If this poem's annoyed you, I promise that it's truly sorry. Watermelon Man. Excuse me while I walk into the nearest wall. Don't worry, but I'll probably fall off the pier. I need crash mats around me always, flung about as I am by questions, ditties, smells. My head is a meteorite that falls horizontally. My legs a tall calamity on the loose, chaotic as escaped giraffes. I stumble into a market stall and demolish its parsnip museum, create an everywhere of celery. Trampling beside a row of houses that are different shades, each bar of colour slams forward and dizzies me, so for a second I see nothing else. Lilac, magenta, teal. It's like being attacked by my first xylophone. A musical disaster, but rather fun. Yes, keep doing it, world. Rearrange me. Keep tripping me up as I try for normal. Attempt to lug this heart unwieldy as a watermelon, dropped and salvaged each day, but firmly sweet. And here's my final poem. Thank you for listening to me. I am the mob. Lately, even my clavicles have separate identities and private YouTube channels. My teeth keep making death threats, and fuck knows why my feet are pretending to be coral. My nipples have fallen out with each other. My hairs point accusingly at everything. Haven't had an email from my pancreas in forever, and my liver is trapped in the 16th century, enraged by its imbalance of humours. Worst of all, I don't own my face. It floats unannounced into mirrors, firing lasers like a bitchy spaceship. How the lot of us get anything done, I have no idea. If it wasn't for our collective suspicion about the world outside this body, frankly, we'd be nowhere. Thank you.
Thank you, John. We're now going to move into discussion with the three poets and me. While we're doing that, I'll ask the poets to click on their videos and unmute themselves. And also for the audience, we do hope you'll want to order the books. And if you scroll down on the YouTube page, you'll see the links there to order the books direct from Bloodaxe. I think we're all together now, yes. I'll just adjust my viewing. Yes. I'd like to kick off by asking John about his title and asking you all about your title, because your book's called Crowd Voltage. You didn't mention at all in the reading the context of that, and I was wondering whether you might say something about that to start off.
I suppose for me, the title reflected the governing theme of the book is the yearning for community, which is common to most humans. It appears in different contexts in the book, especially with regard to class and regard to sexuality. And it was about, I suppose, the feeling that comes about when people get together in both positive and negative ways. So there's one poem I didn't read about social media, which is all about throwing your vaults into the crowd on social media. But there are positive comings together where there is a more playful and friendly electricity too.
And Rita Ann, your book is Jiving with Wasps. It's also a book about community in many ways, isn't it? Your collective work.
I guess so, because it's from 1986 to 2026. So, you might think that you'll change. We never change, Neil. You hopefully you develop with your writing, but I kind of got stuck in the earlier poems there because I not loved them so much, but felt they were somehow better and fresher, and they were without influence, if you like, and but there was not any amazing or huge changes throughout the whole book. I also think I'm loyal to. It's about class with me, as John mentioned already, and I think that plays a part. It plays a big part, really, in how you write and what you write about.
You also appear in your poems, in a sense, don't you? In that you are writing about the people around you very often.
Well, I'm writing about people around me, but I didn't actually appear in. I wasn't in my poems much until the long weekend was kind of more of a first person singular and meant it kind of. I wasn't really. I'm not going to take the fifth, but those filthy poems are not about me, Neil.
No. They're from your viewpoint, aren't they? They're the people
Yes, they're from a viewpoint, and you, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Lily, life immediately. Why life immediately?
Why life immediately? So that is actually taken from a poem called "Thus to be Shifted from One Person to Another," and I quite like setting myself quite outlandish prompts or restrictions or things like that when I'm writing, to sort of see if I can get away with it. And all of the words in that poem were taken from just a couple of chapters of the same sort of legal textbook that I just found lying around one day, and decided, to try and write a poem. yeah, just using those words. And so yeah, life immediately is a phrase that popped up for me in that poem. I can't actually remember if that was the order of the words in the source text, but I think as well, like I'm interested in sort of pace in poetry and timing, and I guess temporality more generally. And so I just quite like the way that is played with. And then you mentioned the Chris Chapman photo on the cover, Neil, and I think, you know, so there we have a lady called Mary Wedlake on her wedding day, and the legal textbook just so happens to end up talking a lot about, you know, the people's rights and as they may change as they enter into marriage and that sort of thing. So I feel it's all connected, and yeah, that's sort of how it came about.
You draw a lot on popular culture, music, a lot of shout outs in your poems, which John mentioned in a note. You sort of, there are moments where you keep going from song to song in a way, and the reader gets that recognition.
Yeah, yes, I do. And I think for me, because that is just so much what my constant mental state is, and the way my mind works, that I think for me it would be strange not to include those references or those nods or those shout outs, as you say. And yeah, the hope is, as you say, that will ring a bell for the reader, or that might mean something to them. But I'm keen to not alienate people at the same time, and, you know, to for the poem to still kind of stand up, even if those references or nods go over someone's head for whatever reason. So yeah, but I feel that kind of illusion is pretty central to my day-to-day life, let alone the poems themselves.
Lily, could I say something? I love the cover and I love the title and I loved reading them. I had that time reading yours and John's work, so like I never met you before, but I just feel I know the two of you. So I feel the three of us know each other so well. We don't know Neil at all. But, it's all about us. But you know, your poems function at so many different levels, and I found it was really hard to predict where a poem was going, and you know, I was constantly surprised. But even though I didn't know where the poem was going, I always wanted to go with you.
Wow.
So it was
Thank you.
like there was a suddenness that you do, this suddenness, and you sometimes match it with it matches with the sound, but the sound has nothing to do with the meaning that just went. So it's kind of it's funny and it's different, and I liked it. I loved the way you do that, because it's kind of, it's very fresh, you know.
Oh,
So thanks
thank
for
you.
that.
That is so kind of you to say. I'm absolutely made up. That's brilliant. And I mean, yeah, thank you. And I would just completely echo what you're saying about, I feel that we know each other so well. I mean, I had a bit of a head start because I've been reading both of your work for quite a long time now. And yeah, to have this compendium. I know, Rita, you said it was one of the reasons you were having to look down to read your poems, whereas John and I didn't, is because you've got such a, you know, impressive wealth of work here, that you wouldn't have been able to hold up if you wanted to. So yeah, to kind of see this as a compendium and to kind of get the span of your work as well has been a real pleasure. And yeah, John, I really loved Reckless Paper Birds, and so I'm thrilled that we're now stablemates here at the good ship Bloodaxe. So yeah, great to hear your work too tonight.
Yeah, that was great.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I love the glorious swerves and veering in your work, Lily. Yeah, it reminds me, just like the poems are like this unpredictable river. There's the kind of like Ashbury-esque shifts, and wagon wheels pop up, or someone giving a faucet as a wedding gift.
Oh, amazing. Well, yeah, thank you. It's all lovely to hear.
Yeah, your poems, Lily, are often they're kind of riffs, aren't they? You riff on something, and that's something I think Rita Ann does very often as well.
I think, well, and I think I think we all borrow quite a lot from, or not even borrow from, comedy, but you know, we all use comedy a lot in a way that lots of poets simply don't. And so that in the way that you might riff on something as part of a joke or a story or that sort of thing, I think, yeah, and so yeah, I think that kind of rings true for all of us, I feel, and that's what, yeah, made it such a lovely kind of choral experience to be reading your books alongside each other as well.
And in John's, with the flower beetle and the oxide daisies and all the super family of insects, like it was like a wraparound, John. You know, it was like you also had, like, you had ostrich and pigs and other animals, Lily, but they were different in yours. They were like a wraparound in John's, and yours was more like, pig, know your station. It was a completely different thing how the natural world was treated. But John, I just loved the way you had them hanging around with you all the time. And I don't know your earlier collections. Was it like that with your earlier collections as well, or is it with Voltage, with Crowd Voltage?
I have always been obsessed with, thank you, I've always been obsessed with animal facts. So quite a lot of the books over here are books of trivia related to insects or other beasts from the natural world. Something about my brain that I just love, obscure bits of trivia, and it just sparks my imagination. I want to say that I'm so glad you read An Awful Racket in the first half, which is an absolutely sensational poem. And the first time I've heard cakehole in a poem, which is one of my mum's favourite words when I was growing up.
Yeah, so
Cakehole.
there's an Irish connection there with your McCullough surname, of course. But no, it was great. It was lovely. It was a lovely event. Thank you.
John, your new collection has there is a kind of change in your work with the new book, isn't it? You want to say something about that? And also the fact that the Adidas poem, I know from what you said, is actually a very old poem.
Yeah, it predates all the other ones. It's an old spoken word poem that I never envisaged being on the page. It was just something that was knocking about from before Records Paper Birds, that I would sometimes slip into sets if I wanted to, up the energy. And it just chimed so much with the themes of class and community that it ended up finding a home. I never expected it to go onto the page. And certainly some of the poems in this book are informed by doing a lot of touring. I've always thought of myself as generally more of, I like Rita Ann and Lily. I am a page poet. I write books to be read, but I enjoy then transforming them into shows, and that kind of energy and voltage of performance and performing to a crowd I've come to love in the last since Rex Paper Birds, I think, sent me around the land quite a lot. I've really enjoyed that, and that's partly why I wanted to do a book that was very high energy and joyful and quite up.
And you've got an event on Thursday, haven't you? Waterstones in Brighton. I
have, yes, 100 people coming on Thursday. I love performing to crowds. And I never used to. I used to be a dreadful reader when I first started out in the 90s. I used to read way too fast just to get to the end, and people couldn't understand half of what I said. And I'd always be inflicting terrible damage on the whatever book I was holding. I would completely wreck by unfolding and refolding it. So yeah, it's come about very slowly over the years.
And we should get a plug in for Rita Ann for your big reading in Galway, shouldn't we, encourage?
Well, I have one before that in Dublin on Sunday. The launch is in Books Upstairs on Sunday, 2:00. But that's no good to someone if they're looking at this in 6 months. And the Courage reading is with Edel Coffey, the novelist, the wonderful novelist, and it's during the Courage Festival, and it's on the Sunday, the closing. I think it's the 26th of April at 7:00 in the Druid Theatre, the McCullough Theatre. So
and are you on the road at all, Lily?
Well, in case anyone is watching this in a couple of months' time, then that'll be perfect, because I'll actually be doing a reading at Books Upstairs in Dublin on the 14th of June with a great poet called Rosamund Taylor, and also Annalise Begenti Dublin-based. Actually, I'm not sure. I think Rosamond's just outside. But yeah, two brilliant poets who I'm delighted to be reading with, and Jess Trainer, fellow Bloodaxe poet, will be doing the honours with a bit of an intro for us. So looking forward to that. And yeah, some other bits here and there. But yeah, delighted to be sharing a stage with you, Rita Ann, if across time and space.
Yeah, no, and Books Upstairs is a beautiful bookshop. You love it.
Oh, great.
Are you doing Glastonbury this year?
They're having a fallow year. So they must have heard I had a book coming out and thought they should keep a low profile. But yeah, hopefully next year we'll be back with cannon fodder. Yeah.
And you have a poem called Glastonbury in the book, which is quite a mischievous poem in a way.
Yeah.
Readers don't necessarily spot why it's called Glastonbury.
Yes. So yeah, beautiful segue, Neil. But that is a again, outlandish prompts and restrictions and stuff that I like to set myself. I've gone through a bit of a phase of writing poems which are quite an extreme version of an acrostic, and so rather than the first letter of each line spelling out a word, it's the first letter of each word that spells out a word. And the Glastonbury poem is the only one that's made it into the book, but it is just the word Glastonbury over and over and over and over. So the first couple of words are God love a story told one night blurry until remembered years gone later. And so it just, yeah. And I thought I should give it a go. And as I find is so often the case with these things, it actually then is a way of unlocking the sorts of poems or topics and things that maybe you've been struggling to write for quite a long time, because you sort of trick yourself into it. And yeah, I don't know.
It takes you into other places, doesn't it, that you wouldn't have necessarily consciously thought you would write about.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
And anything else you want to say to each other?
I was gonna ask, because I've something that got beautifully picked up on in the readings this evening, but also just in our work more broadly. I think, and maybe I kind of alluded to this a bit with the comedy in the poetry, but I think there's something to do with mistakes and sort of pratfalls and falling over, like quite literally in some of John's brilliant poems, literally falling over or stopping oneself and falling over and all the rest. And I think poetry can so often be seen as a space for I don't know, if not perfection, then aiming for some kind of like distillation or some sort of purity of expression, which of course it can be, and it can still be if a poem does include mistakes or slips of the tongue or literal slips. But I wondered if it was a kind of conscious thing for either of you to have errors in your work, as it were, if that makes sense.
Well, I'm a very bad speller, as
Right.
Nita will tell you. So we're hoping there are no errors like that. But I know what you mean. Slips. I love the slip of the tongue,
Mm-hmm.
and we know the Freudian story about that. But it's a gift, It's a gift when something goes, when something like that happens, and you say, "Oh, I'm going to leave that in. I'm going to keep that." So it's part of that journey, isn't it, that we don't really know an awful lot about. We're very happy to welcome the poems as they're coming. We don't always know where they came from. So we don't know what words we're going to put with them when they start. So it's just great I like the way you and John kind of like, your poems both of your collections have a lot of dance in them. There's a lot of dancing going on there in both of them. So you can't decide about that. That's like a natural thing. That's just, it comes from somewhere, but it isn't a plan. It's just there. So I love that about both your collections, the song and the dance.
John, anything to add?
I suppose I'm quite a naturally clumsy person, but I think that recklessness is really useful when I'm at the notebook and doing some free writing or something. Often, as Rita Ann says, it is the kind of thing you didn't mean to write that is more interesting. And certainly a central part of my development as a writer over the years has been letting go of perfectionism, which can be, not that I don't strive, in my editing to hone something as best I can, but there's something very human about the mistake. There's something warm. We are in these kind of flesh suits that are kind of like messy intrinsically and prone to falling over. And when you embody those qualities in writing, I think it just resonates inside other human beings' nervous systems a bit better.
Well, thank you all for the wonderful readings you've given tonight, and thank you for this discussion. We hope that people watching will then want to rush out and buy the books or order them online using the links below. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Neil, so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.